When a rocket launches into space, the chance of failure is always lurking. Space agencies plan every detail of a launch, and yet a single error can cause it to end in a complete disaster. Here are some of the ways space launches could go horribly wrong and what we can learn from them. Most often, they fail due to some form of human error. Mistakes in the construction processes of these incredibly complex machines have even proved to be fatal. These mistakes usually emerge during the first stage of a rocket launch, liftoff. During this stage, the first batch of fuel and propellants are ignited in the rocket's engines. Igniting these substances produces a tremendous amount of gas that exits a rocket's nozzle at incredible velocities. This gas needs to exit the rocket at a steady, consistent pace so the rocket can build momentum and eventually achieve liftoff. You can imagine just how much energy is required to get rockets off the ground, let alone into space. The space shuttle's engines at their maximum output generate almost as much energy as 13 Hoover dams. But generating that much energy naturally requires quite a bit of fuel. That's why engine failure in this context can be an explosive affair. SpaceX's fifth test for its SN4 rocket prototype saw its Raptor engines bursting apart in a great ball of fire. Thankfully, since this was an uncrewed test, no one was hurt during the incident. But that's not always the case. If something were to go wrong during a rocket's attempts to achieve liftoff, the results could also be lethal for anyone caught in the immediate vicinity of the rocket. In 2003, Brazil's VLS-1 had one such tragic incident as it was preparing for launch. Its propellant was prematurely ignited, leading to a massive explosion on the launch pad. 21 technicians on the launch pad lost their lives, and the satellites the VLS-1 intended to launch into space were destroyed. But even if liftoff goes according to plan and the rocket is able to make its way off the ground, tragedy can still strike.
And liftoff.
Perhaps the most widely covered incident of a rocket failing shortly after launch was the Challenger disaster in 1986. The rocket burst into flames about 73 seconds into its flight, taking the lives of all 7 NASA crew members on board. Analysis of pieces of the spacecraft recovered from the Atlantic Ocean eventually revealed the cause of the tragedy. Due to the record low temperatures of the launch, O-rings meant to seal the Challenger's right solid rocket booster had failed. This failure allowed pressurized gas from inside the booster to burn through to the adjacent fuel tank, causing structural failure of the tank and triggering the tragic explosion. So how safe are space launches? In 2021, 8 of the 131 space launches conducted failed. That's a failure rate of roughly 6%. One way NASA ensures the safety of its astronauts and the success of its missions is by testing its rocket structures. Testing the new, very complex pieces of hardware is critical in determining if they'll be able to withstand the forces and conditions they'll face during launch and flight. The tests, however, don't guarantee safety. 24 astronauts and 6 cosmonauts lost their lives while trying to get us to space.
Liftoff of...
The margins between success and failure can be razor thin. But when everything goes as planned, it's remarkable to see a rocket launch into space.